Good morning, Melis Karabinis. I call you from Athens, from the Hellenic Cloth Industry Association. Thank you, everybody, for this meeting this morning. We will open this discussion concerning the TCLF project, which is a very interesting project about the textiles, clothing, footwear, and leather industries. This initiative managed by Eurotex is here concerns, and the objective of the project will be analyzed by Eurotex at the beginning of this meeting. But I would like to inform all the Greek participants, which are all institutions, that they work to vocational training and general training for the clothing and the textile sector and footwear, in order to also increase a discussion, especially now, because in this period, the government and the associations and the social partners, they will open a discussion in order to reform the vocational training and the education system, which will be very fruitful for this industry. With these little words, I would like to thank Mr. Andreas Kaladis, which is with me here in our premises, and Mrs. Despina from Mirtek Klotefi, and Mrs. Despina Mali from Askardamikti Vocational Trade School. And I think that we can continue our discussion. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Apologies for the small delay here. My name is Katarzyna Sulisz. I'm a project officer at Eurotex. I will present today a little bit what is the project about, what we developed so far, and what we will still develop before the end of this project. Thank you very much for attending this workshop. Thank you very much also to allow us to present, and I'm happy to be here to share our inputs, our project results, and also happy to be here with other project partners that are experts in their field. So let's start with why actually we have this project and what is the project about. It's about allowing textile, clothing, leather, and footwear industries to prepare for the future, prepare their workforce and their skills to be more competitive and more attractive, both for other industries and also for customers in Europe, for potential employees. So why textile, clothing, leather, and footwear industries are important? They're important on both levels. On a European level, as a part of Made in Europe brand, and also part of other industries, but also they're important on the national level because they're providing jobs, they're part of the local landscape, they're important not only from the historical perspective, but also now for the innovation and also to support local societies. In terms of figures, it's important to mention that TCLF industries are employing in the European countries in 2019 2.2 million workers. Those 2.2 million workers are working for over 200,000 companies. Most of them are small and medium enterprises. And the turnover of those companies reached in last year 200 billion euro. The export figures reached also 95 billion euro. So we would not have this industry, we would not have these figures if not because of the workforce and the skills of that workforce. This is also why the European Commission, when they launched their Blueprint for Sectoral Cooperation on the Skills initiative, selected our industries as a part of the first wave of the project. So the aim of this Blueprint for Sectoral Cooperation on Skills is to prepare the workforce, prepare the industries, minimize the skills gaps, and help prepare for the future. As you can see here below in the chart, our partnership consists out of 22 partners, 3 partners on European level representing TCLF industries, Eurotex for textile and clothing, CC for footwear, and Cotans for leather. We also have national level representatives, so like our host today, Hellenic Clothing Industry Association, but we also have within our partnership training institutes, universities, and also companies that are supporting our activities. And all those 22 partners are covering 9 European countries: Bulgaria, Belgium, France, Greece, Italy, Portugal, Poland, Romania, and Spain. So it's 4 years project. We are all trying to develop new curricula, update those curricula, and also provide 8 new vet training content to reply as best as possible to the needs of the industry, to secure also better education for people learning and adapting their skills. Apart from this, our objective is also to deliver a European-wide sectoral skills strategy, increase the attractiveness of the TCLF sectors in terms of the perception within the European society, but also increase our competitiveness and to ensure that our results are applicable for other situations, not only within the project, but also outside the project. So the project can be divided into 4 sections, the timeline of the project. So in 2018, we started first with the research phase, and the research phase focused on conducting interviews with companies. At the end, we had more than 200 companies interviewed, with the main aim to understand what is the employment situation in those companies, what are their skills needs, how they see the future, what kind of occupation they need, and what kind of skills for those occupations they need, and also what kind of drivers of change, what kind of external factors are influencing the type of production, the skills needs, and the character in which the company evolves. So that was the interviews with companies. Apart from this, our partners conducted also research. They analyzed existing training offer across Europe, what kind of formal and informal education was provided for this sector. And also we conducted workshops with training providers, more than 50 training providers in first year, to further develop what we established, what we found within other steps of the project. So all that kind of work, all that research helped us establish 8 occupations that industry will have demand for in coming years. All 8 occupations, based on them, we developed and upgraded already existing curricula, which now we're also transferred to development of 8 MOOCs, massive open online courses dedicated to the TCLF industries. I won't speak in details about the 8 MOOCs because we have experts on this who will take floor after me. But in general, we developed 4 transversal profiles and 4 sectorals. And apart from this, in the research phase, conducted also analysis of the situation of the skills needs on the European level. So we moved from the research phase, and in 2020, we're doing right now the piloting phase. We're testing our MOOCs, the development of the MOOCs. If the content is correct, we're checking it with the students. I think there's an echo, so if I may ask to mute the microphone. Sorry. In 2020, we focused on piloting phase, so testing of the 8 MOOCs, but we're also working on increasing the networking activities within the industries. We're trying to engage stakeholders representing industry, education, and also policymakers. And all that leads to, from research and the pilot, it all leads to key results, main results that we found during our research. So as I mentioned before, the TCLF workforce reached 2.2 million workers. It's a decreasing trend, unfortunately, rather stable, as you can see on the chart called aging workforce. But what is important here is the increasing number of workers over the age of 50. According to 2019 statistics, we have 35% of workers over the age of 50. So they will start retiring quite soon, and we have to ensure that the workforce, that we will not have gaps, open occupations that we will not be able to fulfill, that we don't lose the skills that that experienced workforce has already. Apart from this, we also analyzed the skills trends within the industry. So here we have a little bit more stable situation with less changes. So the core for the TCLF industries are workers representing plant and machine operators and assemblers, and craft and related trade workers categories. The differences between 2010 and 2018 are rather minimal. However, as you can see, there are core elements, core parts of the industry. From interesting changes, we can see on the professionals category, the increase from 2% of the total share to 5%. Total number, it's not big compared to the other categories, but it's significant, and it also indicates the direction towards which industries are slowly progressing. Apart from the desk research, we conducted also mentioned industry survey with companies. And here you can see what kind of HR strategies companies are selecting to tackle skills needs, occupation needs, and other elements that are affecting the functioning of the companies. So we have here upskilling as a most important element, how companies are tackling their needs. And the second one is extra jobs. Extra jobs mostly because of the reason that the upskilling is not possible or they need expert and that kind of things. So in general, upskilling and extra jobs. Apart from analyzing past, present situation, we also try to analyze how the future will look like on the research phase. So here you can see the drivers of change. It's based on the survey results conducted with companies. And here you can see that one of the most important drivers of change are technological changes. So changes in the production, automatization of production, amount of money dedicated to research, new technologies, but also dedicated to e-commerce. Next step, important element is a new customer. So basically the change of customer behaviors, like increase awareness in sustainability issues, customers looking for more local personalized products produced in small companies instead of big massive productions. And also environmental change, which is which here we have issues related to the climate change, traceability, and also increasing costs of raw materials and production. However, I have to mention here that those drivers of change does not include the COVID-19 impact. The research was launched before this year. However, in 2021, so next year, with the final sectoral skills strategy, we'll publish the document, including also the impact of COVID-19. So all that work, all that research, all results are part of the sectoral skills strategy and part of 5 possible scenarios, how the industry may look like in 2030. Of course, we do not try to say this is exactly how the industry will look like, but we are kind of giving you guidelines, toolbox, try to foresee how the future may look like. So here you see 5 scenarios that are presented here on the chart based on the job needs and new skills needs that they will require within those scenarios. For more information, I highly suggest you to visit our website when you can read more about this, but I will just explain briefly what the scenarios are about. So the most pessimistic, unfortunately, scenario is industrial sunset. Over here, we have both job needs and new skills needs on the low level. It's basically because of the race to the bottom and outsourcing of the production, Europe will be a customer, but not a producer. So the production will go abroad, companies will start closing, workers won't be able to see a job opportunities there, so they will start moving to another sectors. This is the scenario that we would like to try avoid. Then the next scenario, walled gardens. We still have new skills needs on the rather low level, but the job needs on the stable one. So in this scenario, the main focus is that we'll have the production still in Europe, but it will be mostly decided based on political and economic factors. So protectionism, help from the government on the local level, trade agreements, that kind of elements that will help keep the production, but the production won't be related to competitiveness, to innovation, but to those sectors, those type of productions that we already know and we already have. So it's basically prolongation of certain behaviors, certain types of and character of production. A little bit more optimistic, especially in terms of job needs, will be renaissance of the craft. So it's kind of extension of already existing trends in terms of more conscious consumption, more personalized goods, slow production. So in this scenario, because of the different needs of the customers, we'll have more companies, and more companies means more workers. We won't exactly need new skills. We will use mostly the skills that we already have, a little bit more technologically advanced, but we won't have a revolution in this scenario. The next scenario is selective leadership. So it's kind of similar to walled gardens, but here the key element, the key difference is the competitiveness. So we'll have high-end luxury products, we will have high-tech materials and products. So here the key element will be competitiveness and economic factors and technological developments, which will lead to new skills needs, especially on the high level. And job needs will remain stable because we will still outsource the low added value production. So the jobs over there will be lower, but then we'll have new jobs. So kind of it will be, at the end, it will be more balanced. And the most optimistic scenario is a brave new world, which is characterized by high demand for new skills and relatively stable demand for job needs. It's kind of similar to selective leadership, although here in this scenario, the technological advancements, automatization of the production, more advanced production will cover the whole industry, the whole supply chain, and not only selective subsectors. So all this we developed within our sectoral skills strategy, but it's not the only element that we developed, like I mentioned before. And it's not the only element that we'll focus on in the next steps. So as you can see here, the Skills4Smart TCLF Blueprint project next step is the finalization of 8 MOOCs and piloting of those 8 profiles, which are currently ongoing steps, development of 9 national strategies and final EU-level sectoral skills strategies. So the charts that I just presented before will be also translated on the national level strategies. And also design of a sustainability plan for the project's results to ensure that the results can be used outside the project and also after the project ends. To also ensure that the engagement of the policymakers, stakeholders from other industries and education providers is there. So I will leave my floor to the next speaker, Professor Aura Mihai. And if in case of any questions, please write them in the box and we'll answer them afterwards. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Katarzyna, for your beautiful, nice presentation. We have now an overview of our great work. So what I would like to present you is exactly about the 8 MOOCs. Let me open my presentation first. Let me see. At the moment. Okay, so you now can see my presentation, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. As Katarzyna mentioned, one of the objectives of the project was to update or to propose new qualification profiles, and here they are. So the 8 qualification profiles we developed in this project so far, 4 of them are sectoral profiles like Textile Technologist, Clothing CAD, Pattern Maker, Leather Technologist, and 3D CAD Footwear Developer, and other 4 profiles are transversal for Sustainability Technician, Supply Chain Analyst, Digital Marketing, and Process and Production Timeline Analyst. How we came to these 8 profiles and what kind of resources and tools we have developed so far. First of all, we started with analysis of current VET providers, their training offer across in the partner country and of course across the entire Europe. We took advantage of the findings of extended in-depth survey on future need skills and trends for our TCLF sectors, industries, and we are very happy that around 225 companies believed in our dream and answered to our surveys. By the end of this in-depth research, we came with these 8 occupational profiles. All of them have been defined and also knowledge and skills have been highlighted for each of the profile. We've validated these occupational profiles in focus group sessions conducted with selected VET providers in partner countries. Because we intended and we intend by the end of the project to, let's say, spread this profile in as many European countries as possible, and ESCO matching was have been done, and all this knowledge and skills and definition of the profiles have been comparing against the ESCO tool. By the end, we came with 8 curricula, 8 complete curricula, which contain learning approaches and delivery methods for that in our TCLF sectors. Contain training materials like video lectures, test quizzes, exercises, and assignment, and also indication about work-based learning. All these are included in 8 manuals for trainers and teachers. In this, exactly in this period, we are progressing and working more on Skills4Smart Academy, which will contain all these 8 MOOCs, and we are, let's say, at the beginning of national workshops for train the trainers. The figures we have so far, as we mentioned, 8 profiles, 51 units of learning outcomes, around 200 lessons, all of them, 51 sets of exercises and assessments, all of them in 50 language versions. Let me introduce you the first profile, which is for Textile Technologist. Actually, this profile is not a new one, but it is very much updated to the needs of the industry. According with results from what companies need in terms of skills and knowledge for this new profession, we came to the conclusion that this specialist, these experts should possess technical knowledge on the structure and properties of the textile materials, on production processes such as spinning, knitting, dyeing, printing, finishing. Also, this profile should provide solution to increase efficiency throughout the production cycle, and he or she could make the best in order to understand the production problem and knows how to solve them. On the right screen, on the right part of the screen, you can see the units that this profile, that this curricula has. So you will find units about fibers, yarn and fabrics, about quality control, about spinning production, weaving, knitting, tufting, and of course non-woven fabrics. The second profile is also updated profile for the clothing sector, and the entire profile, the entire curricula has, and its related curricula, has a computer-aided touch. The units we have developed in this curricula are about collection design and development, about textile materials used in clothing industry, about how to make pattern making using 2D CAD systems, a very new topic, let's say, not so new, but very important topic to be included in this curricula, is about 3D CAD software tools for clothing design. The last units of this curricula about prototyping and about how to let's say, make a design technical package in order to be useful for next stages of production. The leather technologist profile is very complex and very complete. This expert, according with our findings from research, these experts should apply scientific principles in the processing and use of leather, and not working in tannery and all that problems related with the tanning process of the leather. But also this expert should be able and should be responsible for innovation and research development in their organization. Therefore, the curricula for this profile contain an overview of the leather processing chain. Chemicals, materials, and leather chemistry are presented in the second unit. And in the next 3 units, basic specific operation in beam house, in tanning, post-tanning, and finishing departments. Also, this curricula contain a final unit about quality monitoring and control. One new profile we have introduced in our, we have developed in our within our project is 3D CAD Footwear Developer. Initially, this profile we named as Footwear 3D CAD Pattern Maker or Footwear 3D CAD Designer and Pattern Maker. But we came with this new name by the end because we consider that it is much more complete and in line with what footwear companies across the Europe ask for. Therefore, this curricula, the curricula for this profile include units such as footwear product design and styling process, of course, an overview of the specific manufacturing operation and stages and related technologies. One unit about 3D modeling, 3D CAD modeling and virtual prototyping. Another unit about how to transform these 3D models in 2D pattern using computer-aided design systems, and other 2 units about how to design lasts and how to design soles and heels. The last unit of this curricula is about rapid prototyping with a sensible touch to additive manufacturing. About transversal profiles, we can say that we intended to create that kind of specialist that are able to work in different subsectors like textile, clothing, leather, and footwear. Therefore, the curricula have been designed considering 1 or 2 first units which are general, which gave general knowledge and skills, and then for each of the subsectors specific units. For example, sustainability technician has as a first unit of the problem associated with environmental and social legislation. In the second unit, we present about sustainability concept, of course, applied to TCLF industries. Another unit about life cycle environment, performance of the TCLF products and, of course, organization. And then concrete for each subsector, we have units about eco-friendly materials and sustainable technologies, as I said, in textile, clothing, footwear, and of course in leather industry. Another transversal profile we developed, we defined and we developed the curricula for this profile is the supply chain analyst with a digital touch. So complete name of the profile is digital supply chain analyst. As I said before, for the sustainability technician, also this curricula has some introductory units like product lifecycle management and supply chain management, like traceability of materials and supplies and components, like supply chain strategies, general speaking in TCLF companies, inventory of materials and supplies, warehouse management systems, production logistic inside the TCLF companies is the last unit of this curricula. Another transversal profile, which is very much attractive, especially for young generation, is, and of course, very important for companies in our sector, is digital marketing professional. This expert should have knowledge on e-commerce, on digital marketing, on social media, on management, online sales methods, bank payments, and all other activities related to electronic trade in case of TCLF products. Therefore, the curricula for this profile has the units about web technology for e-commerce marketing and online sales, about shopping environment, about another unit about e-marketing and e-sales activities, all related with TCLF products. Another unit about digital communication and social media with application in our sectors. Another unit about digital marketing strategies in textile and clothing industry, and similar unit for footwear and leather industry. We cannot talk about competitive industries without knowledge and skills in production and process timeline, and this analyst, this profile should be responsible for gathering and elaborating, storing, using and sharing digital process data in relation with customers, process performance, technical sheets, production instruction, and so on. Therefore, this the curricula for this profile has a first unit about production management and process control in TCLF companies. And then after this general, let's say, unit, which presents the general overview of the entire sectors, of all of the sectors, we go specific in each subsectors, like in specific units, like process and production timeline analysis, for textile companies, for clothing companies, for footwear companies, and of course for leather companies. I would like to just briefly to open the Skills4Smart Academy in order to just have a look on how the content is presented in our case. So we took the decision. The partnership took the decision to publish all these online learning materials in let's say worldwide e-learning being held by famous learning providers like University, and all our MOOCs are gathered. So the 8 MOOCs in English plus the language versions will be gathered in a Skills4Smart Academy. We are working on in this moment in opening all the courses, as the piloting will start in the near future, and I would like just a little bit to show you, for example, as example, one of the let's say one of the lesson. I will not let the entire lesson, just few minutes in order for you to have a...
Unit 1, Collection Design and Development for Clothing Industry. Lesson 3, New Tendencies.
I'm not sure if you hear the voice also. Anyway, each MOOC has video lectures, as you can see on my screen. So the user could open each lesson, could follow the content of the video lectures. Then the user at the end could be invited to take an exercise, like an assignment, and within each lesson, the user could, let's say, take a quiz and could see if, like a self-test, more like a self-test, and he or she could see if it is in the right, let's say, track in progressing with learning. There are some announcements to be made for each, that could be made for each unit or each MOOC, and usually these announcements are made by during the process of piloting by instructor of the MOOC. Each trainee, each user could use the journal section in order to submit their assignments, and of course it's a discussion session. We have together the users, the trainees, students, trainees, and also the instructors, the trainers could change their opinion, could open new topics for discussion in order to complete the process of learning. In this moment, free MOOCs are already available. The one for Clothing CAD, the 3D Footwear Developer, and Textile Technologist. And the other MOOCs are in advanced stage, so they will be published very soon on the Iversity platform. What we have to do in the following period, and also for 2021, is to pilot all these materials, and we kindly invite all of you to contact TCLF partner in your country, or for international attendees in this workshop, please contact the coordinator of the project in order to be enrolled in our piloting and to take advantage of, let's say, 8 the most promising profile and their related materials in these 50 language versions. Thank you so much.
Aura?
Yes.
I see that we have 2 questions for you, so I think it would be best to answer now.
If it is possible, yes.
Okay, so I'm going to read them to you. So they're quite similar. So the first one is the course available also to non-members of the project? Unfortunately, no organization from Germany is participating, but we are really interested as well to use some of the skills development materials.
Okay, I can answer to this question because we had this discussion in our consortium. one intention, I will give a more complete answer, maybe, and cover this specific question as well. So first of all, we'll pilot these courses in the partner countries according with a very detailed plan. Apart from piloting session in each country, we open the MOOCs to free users, so anyone could be registered with only one condition: to get the feedback. Yeah, I don't know if my answer is, it's okay? Paul?
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. I think you answered the question perfectly. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so again, yes, anyone could use our MOOC, could register in our Skills4Smart Academy. Again, I repeat, with this kind of request, after they complete the course, they are kindly asked to submit feedback. We'll send them a questionnaire, and this feedback will help us to improve our course, our contents. Thank you. Okay, other question?
So in fact, there is another question.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will read the last one first. So, have any of the MOOCs been shared with relevant industries to get practical and relevant feedback on the effectiveness of the course?
In this moment, exactly this is our intention. This is in fact, this is aim of this piloting stage. In our partnership, there are not only VET providers or universities or research technological centers. Also in our partnership, we have companies, and they will take part in piloting process. Yes, by the end, we'll have the feedback from industry as well in all our courses.
Okay, thank you very much. And then we have a third question. It's a rather long question, and I suppose that both you and Katarzyna might be able to answer. So I'll start reading now. As we believe, and was mentioned in the beginning, the future of the industry in Europe will be based on slow fashion, renaissance of the craft, and will be mainly executed through small, local companies. How will it be possible for small companies to invest in all those skills in-house? As realistically, most of these companies operate on a small number of employees that usually undertake multiple different roles within the company. Thank you.
Maybe I will just make small comment about the first part. So one of the scenarios is renaissance of the craft, but we think that also other futures may be possible for the TCLF industries. So maybe in some sectors, some regions in Europe, that scenario will happen. But in other countries, other regions, we can have selective leadership, bigger kind of production, bigger companies. So it's not only like one way how we see the future, but we are thinking that certain scenarios may even be linked together and work together. So we may still have small local companies, but we can have also bigger ones with different approach towards skills. But regarding the way how the small companies can upskill their workforce, I think Aura is an expert on this one.
Actually, this was in our mind from the beginning, and the MOOCs, as you know, a MOOC, as you know, could be used both in initial training, in vet schools, and universities, but also the MOOC, because, for example, in our case, in our Skills4Smart Academy, we selected the provider of the MOOC in order to be user-friendly. and very easy to be followed by any trainee. So in case of small company that cannot afford, cannot, let's say, invest in training their staff, we recommend, for example, self-learning, which is self-training. And the MOOCs will developed will be exactly for their needs in this respect. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much to both of you. I don't see any other questions, so I think we can move on to the next presentation.
Thank you very much, Paul, for leaving me the floor. So let me share my screen. Okay, can you all see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. So we're running a little bit late on the agenda, but I promise I will be quick, immediate, and straight to the point. So my name is Elisa Pagliaroli. I'm working as a strategic consultant for Spin360, an Italian consulting company which is partner of the S4 TCLF project. So today we're going to have an interactive discussion on the direct and long-term implication of COVID-19 on education, which is a topic I do believe is really important and crucial for the future of education. So let's have a quick look on today's topic. So we're going to see the world COVID situation in the education sector from some statistics from international organizations. I will tell you a story about a disruption moment which might be useful also for us. I will be presenting some facts and figures, and then we will move on to the 5 key challenges and the EU best practice on the sector, which are extremely important to tackle this important challenge. And then we will ask you your perspective regarding the challenges you are currently facing and the possible solutions. So let's start off. So this is May 19, 2020 situation. As you can see, all schools almost in the world were closed. The situation was extremely critical. We all know that now schools are gradually reopening, but it is really important to ride the change and really create a new solution to face this current health emergency. So let me tell you a story, which it's time ago, but it can be similar to our situation. So in 1665, the Great Plague has forced the closure of University of Cambridge. There was a student here named Isaac Newton. Due to the plague, Newton was forced to stay at home for a very long quarantine for 2 years. But actually, this was a really important moment for them for making extremely important discoveries in mathematics, calculus, mechanics, and which will lay also the foundation for his books. So this is a story, and I will ask you to please, to have an interactive discussion on this, I will ask you to kindly go to www.menti.com and insert the code that you can see here. You can do it on your smartphone. It's an anonymous instant poll. And insert the code 522784. Okay, so here you can see the code. Okay, I think we can start. So the first questions let's see, how do you feel right now related to the COVID-19 situation? We have a number of responses here. Let's see. Okay, so answers are coming. We see we are conscious. Oh, we still have some frustration. That's really interesting because we do have different answers. So let's wait for other people. I will put a countdown. So 10 seconds more to answer. Okay. Oh, that's very nice. That's very nice. We see that the majority of people are now conscious about the situation. Some people propositive, but there are still some shock and frustration. So that's really interesting to see how the different reactions are. So actually, this was a nice thing to present you and to connect the Isaac Newton experience with some change management concept. So when you see applying change is really difficult, and not all people react on the same way. So if we can have a curve to design the change management process, we can see that this might be the beginning of the COVID-19 crisis. Most of us, the majority of us, were shocked, frustrated, and some of them also denied this situation. Then I think we reached the bottom with resignation. So we were really upset about the situation, but at the same time, we were able to understand that we couldn't do anything. And then there is the disruption, the disruption. Things are starting to change. People and we saw from the Eastern Pole are starting to be conscious about it. And after consciousness, we believe it's important to be propositive to tackle this change. And this is the core, the important phase of the improvement, which is what we are all aiming to and suggesting. So let's have a look at some facts and figures regarding the training, how it's being provided by region. We see here the main region, Europe and Central Asia, Americas, Arab states, Asia and the Pacific, and Africa. So looking at the statistics and we see, and the colors below, we do see that Europe and Central Asia were the regions turning to fully remote, so to online distance learning, whereas regions like Africa did not have a complete transition to online and distance learning tools, as you can see from the arrows. So let's have a look here on the use of new tools for resources by income groups. This is a statistics from the International Labour Organization, UNESCO, and World Bank Group, specifically dedicated to VET providers. So these are the tools used by VET providers. We do see here that high-income countries mostly focused on video conferences, virtual learning environments, blog discussion forums, but also developing new written resources. And this, I believe, is important because as we saw in the experience from Isaac Newton, this is the moment also for creating new things. Lower middle income countries, whereas focused also on the traditional learning method, let's say. So they use podcasts, TVs, and videos, etc. So let's move to the key challenges. So Spin 360 developed a desk research focusing on the main challenges across Europe regarding COVID-19, and we decided to group them into 5 topics, and these topics also present some best practices that might be useful also for all of us to learn. They are enhanced digital teaching, keeping the students and apprentices engaged, support the most vulnerable learners, how to grade and assess students, and how to deliver on-the-job training while in distance learning. So let's start from the first one, enhanced digital learning. So the COVID-19 crisis has, of course, deeply changed the way teaching and learning occurs. So we saw also from the statistic a very important rise of e-learning and remote teaching through the use of digital platform. This also called the attention and the efforts from the national authorities and others to put in place mechanisms that could be useful and effective and efficient in terms of delivering this distance learning. We do have here an example from Luxembourg. So the ministry has launched a survey survey to teachers and parents in order to have some information on the way they were using distance learning, if they were able to use them, if there were problems, etc. And this survey was also an opportunity also to connect remarks and suggestions for improvement. And then the ministry has launched a webinar to support the teachers to enhance their knowledge and to improve their digital skills. And the most important challenge, how to keep students and apprentices engaged. So I believe it is important here to state that, and you may agree with me or not, and we can have a discussion also on that, that digital learning is not the simple transposition of traditional learning classes. It's a new educational paradigm, is a new teaching and learning approach. Different things must be considered. Attention spans change. There's no more peer-to-peer learning face-to-face. So there are different things to consider, and we cannot think that things should be done on the same way. So this sudden shift to a different educational paradigm has changed things, and some countries have set up new strategies to involve students, and this is a critical part. We do have here an example from Ireland, where it was very clever because the vet providers engaged students through supporting the public health system. We have an example, we have some examples here. So for example, they involved students in the production of face masks for hospital and nurses, but also they involved them in the participation of, in the preparation of meals, and this is with reference to hospitality trainees to support doctors and nurses. So how to keep students engaged, these are some suggestions. Then, supporting the most vulnerable learners. We all know that the COVID-19 crisis has had an impact on people, but also on the vulnerable learners. These students, of course, have some problems, some criticalities, especially they might not have access to relevant learning and digital resources, and they might not have a suitable working home learning environment where to learn. So these things must be taken into consideration from the relevant stakeholders. We have here an example from Portugal, but I'm sure there were several examples across different countries here in Europe. So Portugal, to support the vulnerable, disadvantaged learners, created a new broadcasted the new television channel called Telescola, and it was developed in parallel to digital education and training. This is to allow the most vulnerable students with problems that we have already mentioned to have access to access learning. So this is a critical one, how to grade and assess students. So we all know, and I have explained it, that transitioning to digital learning means completely revisiting all the learning and teaching approaches. And also there is the challenge of how to grade students without traditional face-to-face classes, without practical training. So this is really difficult. And in fact here, we, more than identifying a best practice, we identified some way outs to tackle these problems. We have here an example from France. So France decided to suspend the exam and assess students based on the marks of their school reports. And then regarding final assessment on practical trainings, instead of having physical exams, a jury was established to decide on the final grade by taking also in consideration the performance of the students during the practical training periods. Last but not least, how to deliver on-the-job training without presence. This is also an important component because online education is positive. It has allowed us to continue training while keeping social distancing and staying at home, but at the same time, how to deliver practical training, which are key in order to further learn a job. So here we have two examples, one from Romania and one from Slovenia. So Romania started to use some very interesting online tools for practical training. It used the demonstration, simulation, which they are not the same, but at the same time they are useful in order to further learn some practical activities, and training also for the use of specialized software. And then we have Slovenia. In Slovenia, teachers collaborated within company trainers to design specific online courses, simulation and demonstration in remote training to address this gaps. So students received individual or group assignments, demonstration, videos and presentation, but this was done in collaboration between companies and VAT providers. So it's a win-win situation here. So to sum up, we have seen these 5 challenges. We have seen that there are a number of practices that are available in Europe. Some are very similar, some are very different. But what we wanted to underline is that a best practice cannot be applicable, cannot be suitable for all countries. So what is really important here is to leverage on all the possible aspects that we have highlighted, because it is important to put in practice an holistic strategy in times of crisis. And this leads us to the next step. So how to make the VAT system fast responsive to adapt to the crisis, how to accelerate the digital transformation in education, and how to facilitate the exchange of knowledge and of course the best practice. So there is really a need to strengthen this collaboration and developing that excellence at all levels, which is a core topic of this webinar. So let's go back to our open discussion. Please go again to menti.com, insert your code, and we'll have a look at some of the challenges your country and your country's perspective. Okay. So first question I would like to ask you, which of the following learning tools that you will see was used for teaching before the COVID pandemic? I'll give you some time to read the questions and rank the learning methods that you most used before the pandemic. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, we do have traditional face-to-face classes, of course. Use of TV, podcasts, YouTube video, and multimedia. Third, printed materials, learning programs online, video conferences. Okay, there was not a massive use of video conferences. Okay, and last, learning and simulators, virtual reality and virtual reality tools. So yes, of course, obvious, traditional face-to-face classes were the most used. Okay, see, there are some people still answering, so I will give maybe some 5 seconds, but I don't think that things are going to change. Okay, let's move to the next one. So same question after COVID-19. Answers are the same. Okay, answers are coming. Let's have a look. Okay, evidently we are transitioning from traditional face-to-face to video conferences, so live sessions, but also asynchronous courses. So learning programs online, but I see video conferences are winning, so live sessions. But of course, as I have stated, digital learning requires a different approach to engage students, to deliver teaching, and it's completely different, even if the content might be the same. So video conferences is the most used and was the most used. So Challenges of COVID-19. Let's have a look. So what are the challenges your organization has faced or is facing in delivering education programs and activities in the context of the pandemic? So I'll give you time to read, and let's see what are the most important challenges you have personally faced. Okay. Let's have a look at the answers. Oh, wow. Challenges. Okay, so limitations where courses were mandatory, of course, how to deliver practical training. That's really important, and it was a challenge that we were also focusing a lot. So delivering practical training was the most difficult. Then we have certified limitations, but also difficulties in keeping students and apprentices engaged. So this confirms the challenges we have identified. Difficulties in supporting the most vulnerable learners. Yes, that's extremely important. Extra cost for the protective equipment, fortunately, is rising a bit, but fortunately was not the main challenge. Okay, so we see here then the challenge, the most perceived challenge was the difficulty in delivering practical training, and that's really interesting. Let's move on. So, has your organization provided any additional support to the staff or to the teachers to ensure that the continuation of education, programs and activities? So that's very simple here. Okay, great. 5 yes, 2 no's. Okay, so we see that the support. So, oh, that's really interesting. That's really interesting to see that there was no additional support for. Okay, there are more yes than no's, but this is important to underline. There was a lack of support for staff and teachers. That's really important. So okay, so yes, it's winning, but yes, of course, we should reflect on how to provide support. Consequences of COVID, we're almost at the end. So have national or regional authorities in this association, have they put in place some support measures to help your organization to deal with the impact of COVID? So let's see the support measures from other stakeholders. That's simple again. Okay, another interesting answer. So more no than yes, and this reflects also the previous response, and it's a bit in line with it. So there was no support from the national authorities, from the regional authorities, and from the industry association. That's really interesting, because how to be proactive. You remember the change curve. How to be proactive in changing without support. And it's interesting to understand this component. Last question. Will your organization consider adjusting, modifying the way it delivers the education and training in the long run following the COVID-19 pandemic? So are we learning from this crisis? Are we going to change or not? Let's see. I hope. Okay. Okay. So some of you stated that they will revert to delivering education as prior to the pandemic. This might be an option, because going back to the face-to-face classes, it's positive for learning, for peer-to-peer learning. But I do think at the same time that we have to learn from what we have faced and what we are facing. So I think that a mixed approach should be used, and a trade-off should be applied. But the majority of you said yes, So we are going to change. We're going to change, and I hope we do. So thank you very much. We will, of course, share the results along with the best practices we have identified. And so now it's the moment for Carmen Arias to step in. And thank you very much for this webinar. Okay, Carmen, whenever you want.
Yes, thank you very much, Elisa. Thank you very much also for this interactive presentation and to all our participants to be engaged with us. Apologize because we are a bit out of the timing. We will see what we can do in order to catch up. But I think this is really something that can bring us to future activities together, and we should focus on it. The first thing I would like just to introduce to is to the specific term that probably some of you have heard about it, is the Centers of Vocational Excellence. Basically, the European Commission came up with this concept already 2 years ago. And what the definition that they are giving is the following. You can read here: Centers of Vocational Excellence bring together a wide range of local partners, such as providers of vocational employers, research centers, development agencies, employment services, and others, to develop skills ecosystems that contribute to regional, economic, and social development, innovation, and smart specialization strategies. This is basically to engage on investing on VET centers, because as you all know very well, that is one of the drivers of applied innovation in our regions, and can help in difficult circumstances like it has happened during COVID, for instance. So having that in mind, what we find now in Europe, you have all our industries, the TCLF, the major drivers of employment in many EU regions, not in all, but basically our industries are in really specific regions in Europe, across Europe. In order to really increase the competitiveness of this industry, we need to engage and promote the dynamic and modernized VET ecosystems. And this is what we are aiming at also under our project. So, as I said before, VET centers are the drivers of the VET ecosystems, and many of the regions and countries are already working on that. What we want to achieve is that VET is not a second choice education, it really is on the top, and also to try to respond faster and more dynamically to all the drivers of change that we are facing, especially we have faced a very, very disruptive change because of the COVID and the acceleration in digitalization on the education. Something that normally would have taken 10 years, it has to take 6 months or even less. So we are there. You heard before that we did some surveys at the beginning, not only to industry, but also to VET centers. Thank you to some of you who participated. And what we identified was that there was a lack of autonomy of action on some of, especially on the VET, on the public VET, because they depend more on bureaucracy and decisions from the politicians. Also, they had problems when they wanted to use financial and human resources quickly. And then one of the weaknesses, quite relevant if you want to grow as a VET as such, is that some of them, they were working in isolation and they were not part of any regional development, regional skills development strategies or skills ecosystems, and neither engage with other stakeholders across Europe. And obviously, I mean, this brings some limitations when they want to increase their competitiveness. And then also we noticed that it will help them a lot if they could be integrated on the knowledge innovation communities. You know, the knowledge innovation communities, they include universities, industry, and research centers, but they forgot about VET centers. Well, they forgot, you know what I mean? The Commission did not really include them on that. something that they are now correcting and they are addressing. They are trying also to, well, not only the European Commission, but basically the member states and regional policymakers to try to engage them on regional development policies, including on the smart specialization strategies. For those who do not know what is that concept about, basically the Commission allocates funding to regions on the basis of some plans of action of sectors that they are presented as a smart specialization strategy for that specific region. In the past, they were more sectorial. At the moment, they are more horizontal, covering, for example, it could be digitalization, but it could be renaissance of craftsmanship. It could be, so depending on the region, they have presented a plan on that aspect. One of the points interesting for VET centers, or well, educational centers, I would say in general, is that in the past, this amount of money that the regions were received could not be invested in education. And as from next year, the next financial framework, they will be eligible. So basically, it is very important that we collaborate. Well, we collaborate, saying, or the VET education and the education centers try to engage on regional development strategies, because support can be given. In this relation, I'm thinking on when the question before on whether they were receiving support from the regions or from the industry associations. I would say more about the policy, well, the regional authorities or national authorities. And with the new framework, education is eligible, so we have really to engage with the policymakers. Now, we were saying that, oh no, this one is not, sorry, I will make it all because otherwise it's too slow. VET centers are really going to the center of the circle. VET centers are the drivers of skills ecosystems in collaboration with stakeholders, and in this way, they are driving towards this center of vocational excellence in each of the regions in Europe, where our industry is located, obviously. It doesn't mean that there is one center that is going to be the leader, not at all. It is more like, I mean, all VET centers can contribute to this driving force. This is the idea. Why? Because the VET center as such is a rapid and agile knowledge diffuser, as you all know. It's really, as I said before, a catalyzer of innovation and applied research. It can faster address demographic, labor market, and technological changes. You remember that many of the textile and even footwear companies were, and also clothing, adapted to the new needs of the COVID situation, and are producing or were started to produce and are still producing, some of them, protective equipment, including the mask. They also contribute to valorize human capital, and it is really inclusive, and they try to include potential of the try to valorize the potential of disadvantaged learners, and then they can adapt much easier to the supply and demand on the skills supply and demand adapted built on regional expertise and needs. Okay, in this way, with such a VET systems, modern VET systems, regions will be able to deliver skills more responsive to disruptions and uncertainty. There will be also more attraction towards the young future workers, future and students, and better empower our current workforce. And there will be our companies we will become more resilient and competitive. Obviously, all this is not possible if regional and national authorities do not support our industry, as I said before, and it is basically why we need to engage them towards the integration of VET education into the regional development policy. Basically. So what does it mean really to be a VET excellent according to the Commission, as I said again? It is all about not only to focus our services on initial VET, for instance, but it could be initial and continuous VET. We are trying to identify at the moment how much initial and continuous VET there is in Europe in our sectors. So we are also doing conducting a survey that I thank you again also because some of you have replied, and I engage the others please to reply to the survey. We are these services can also include the validation of informal training. Is one of the challenges that our industry sometimes and our students and workforce face. The social integration services, research activities, entrepreneurial services, and support to startups, or even trends observatory. With this, it does not mean that a VET center has to focus on all these services to be considered VET excellent center, but rather that obviously it is more enriching, and it will bring more added value to the society, to the region, if it can provide as well other services than just the initial VET. So the idea is really to build up a strong, solid local and regional VET skills ecosystems. Okay. And for that, we will need the collaboration and the engagement with all the categories of stakeholders, with the idea of think global but act local. So just to repeat, well, a bit coming back to the same as before, the challenges we face, we need to find some autonomy. We need that the VET centers have some autonomy at the level of governance, so they can decide on the definition and design of the new curriculum, educational programs, and so on. We need to engage and actively collaborate with agents of the other knowledge triangle so that they are all together, working together. And then obviously we cannot forget the international dimension, because it is all about learning from others, sharing interest, and engage in new initiatives and projects. And that is what's all about our network of centers of VET excellence that in Europe that we would like to build up under the Skills4Smart TCLF project. So obviously it will not be easy. It means, but we need to believe on it, and you need to be engaged. Really to believe that it will bring you some added value. There are different actors with different points of views and skill needs interpretation. There will be sometimes problems with financial resources and time restrictions. You will need to be engaged on maximizing exchange of information and results. There can be sometimes language barriers because not everybody speaks English or another common languages. I will not say stay with the English. And again, sometimes some of them, they are restricted because their autonomy of action because of they depend from public bodies. And again, some of you, well, not some of you, but some of them, at least some centers, are working at the moment of isolation, and they really should be more engaged to open their doors to other entities and within the regional development, basically. So where are we now in the network? So at the beginning, we did, as I mentioned before, we did an analysis of company skills need and of VET provision in the EU. So in order to understand where we were in terms of VET excellence and regional development and the engagement with the regional development. Now we are doing these webinars. I would like to inform you as well that this is one of the webinars, workshops, but we are having another 4 more. In this one, I am happy to inform you that we have 10 different centers from 10 different countries: Belgium, Czech Republic, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Poland, Romania, Sweden, Turkey, and UK. This is a good start for a future collaboration if we can all engage all of you. The next step will be to call all of you for another webinar on the 3rd of November. There have been, as I said before, there have been other webinars in Portugal, in Italy, and now Romania and Spain will follow. So this is why we don't have so many representatives in our webinar of today, because they are having, we will be delivering this webinar for their countries. It's not because they are more important, it's just because we have partners who are able to deliver the training in that language, so it's why. So it's not to be discriminated. And also we wanted to engage with those countries that they are not part of our project. So in the webinar of the 3rd of November, I will already ask you now to book the date, please. We will be presenting you with all the results of the total of the results of the different webinars, workshops. Plus, we will introduce you as well to what could be the future of our network, and with in liaison with new concept that the Commission just launched a month ago, called the Pact for Skills, which basically is on the same line as we are working at the moment, and it is to establish some commitments, some key indicators to reach on education, on vet education in the different your different regions, between all the categories of stakeholders who are really can bring added value to modernize the vet ecosystems, basically. So that. Then we will be presenting you later on with a memorandum of understanding, trying to identify, well, with identification of the common interest that you have shown in the different, and this not only in this workshop but also in the future webinar that we will have. And finally, we will be proposing activities. Well, we will propose you, and you will say whether you are interested or not. It does not mean that you will be interested in all of them. Some might choose some and others. But the idea is really to find common lines of future projects together, where you will be able to learn from others which have an expertise in a specific topic. It could be any. So this is basically what I was saying before. Also, at the same time, we are trying to increase the attractiveness of the vet in our sectors, as we know. Cooperation, we're not going to that, we have seen it. So now on the activities, I ask you already to please switch on your cell phone again, because we are going to use again these active interactive questions. So here I have, I'm going just to leave the floor to the expert on the topic. Yes. Elisa, are you there?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Carmen. Let me share again my screen.
To get a small idea about what do you think could be interested in the future network to work together with the other centers, basically. We will.
Okay, I've just shared my screen.
I thought you had my screen. The last. Okay.
Okay.
So let's see which of the activities you can think that will be interesting for you. Obviously, for growing as a center of education. I mean, I don't know if you can see them. So basically, I can read for you. Co-organisation of European, it's very small, Elisa. Just a second. I cannot even see. I need better glasses. Co-organisation of European. Can you read, Elisa? Because I read.
I can read if you prefer.
Yes, I can read as well. Apologies, but the screen is so I cannot zoom it. So the first one is co-organisation of European transnational events to promote the VAT studies. The second, digital teaching and learning methodologies. The third, organization of annual European workshops to exchange best practices. Fourth, professional education of teachers and trainings through mobility. Fifth, recognition of skills acquired in practice outside formal education. Sixth, upgrade of sector machinery and equipment to deliver the training. And then VAT learners. So I see answers are coming. So Carmen, floor to you.
Yes, okay. So you left. I cannot see the results. How many replies do we have? Because it is hidden under your little TV. Okay, 4. We wait for you. I am really interested, and this is really important for us to know. What are you thinking about on this topic, and what we could? I mean, how can we help you to build up this network and to engage on future activities? So, okay, so far the digital teaching. Learning methodologies is on the top so far, followed by professional education of teachers and trainers, which probably were really shocked with this sudden change of a scenario in their education paths, and in their teaching paths, I would say rather. So, and obviously the organization of European. I am having nightmares to read this letter, Lisa. European transnational events. Yes, okay. And organization of annual European workshops, good. And follow, okay, but I'm happy to see that there is an interesting there. So the idea, as I said, we reached the 15 that they are the ones active at the moment in these surveys. So thank you very much. We see the digital teaching is the most needed at the moment, and we will try to give priority as well to that. But again, as I said, on the next webinar, we will be following on this aspect and work on this. Please, thank you very much. I don't know if you have any question on my presentation, and if not, we pass it to the conclude. I'm really sorry, we are a bit late. Thank you.
Okay, so this is Takis from the Hellenic Clothing Industry Association. Just to close this webinar, I think it was very helpful for all of us. And so I would like to thank both the presenters and the participants. We had, I think, more than 40 participants at some point. So thank you very much for participating. You know the next steps now, both as far as the project is concerned and as far as what we would like the VET providers, how we would like them to be engaged